I'm ready. I've been asking you the questions.
Yes. Sawa sawa. So we dive right into it, isn't it?
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for
Thank you.
accepting to come and have this conversation, specifically to encourage entrepreneurs in their different fields with your accumulated knowledge and wisdom.
Yes, yes. Well, it's fun to be here, and I got a chance to meet you this week, and we had some great conversations. So I think we'll be enjoying ourselves today.
That's
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
So the first one is who is Andrew? Actually, Peter was telling me about the other name, Kemmetmueller. Is it the correct pronunciation?
Kemmetmueller.
Kemmetmueller.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, it's
good.
a long name.
Yes. Kemmetmueller.
Yeah.
So who is Andrew?
It's a great question. I'm still trying to find that one out myself.
Yes.
I think I become a different person all the time. I've often been telling people I'm Andrew 10.0 right now.
10.0.
Yeah, I work in technology, and so the idea of using versions is always interesting for me.
Yes.
But I grew up in the United States in one of the northern states called Minnesota. So it's above the 45th parallel, which means that it's closer to the North Pole than it is to Nairobi. So
Yes.
it's a place that's usually pretty cold. But I grew up in a smaller community, a more rural community, and then I had an opportunity when I was young to go and visit Tokyo, Japan, and found cities and neon lights and thought it was amazing. So I wound up going to Japan and spending some time there, and it changed my life because it taught me different cultures and different people. And so I knew I wanted to get involved in something that would open the door for me to be able to work with other people. So I did that, and then I got into telecommunications. I was working with telecommunications for a while, and about 20 years ago I got into aviation. And in aviation I've typically done work around new technology. So trying to help airlines and others in the industry to learn how to use technology. But all the time I'm trying to find ways to create better. Trying to find ways to improve or to maybe shorten a line, make it easier for somebody to do something. And I think that's who I am, is somebody who loves to find a problem and see if we can come together and solve it.
Great. What happened in Tokyo that
Oh well, I was a singer when I was young, classical music, and I was in part of a group that was invited to come over for a music festival in Tokyo when I was.
this is in school?
I was about 11 or 12 years old, so I was very young, and so we went over, and when you're that age, you're very impressionable, and I remember this was in the 1980s, and there was a lot of neon lights, and the doors opened automatically everywhere I went. So where I was growing up, that wasn't a thing yet, and so I thought, boy, a place that you don't have to open the door, that must be pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. Great. What brings you to Kenya?
I live in Wheaton, Illinois now, which is just outside of Chicago, and I go to a church there. I attend a church there. That's a fairly large church, Wheaton Bible. And I have a friend there who is a doctor, and she had come over to Kenya a few years ago and gone up to Turkana to work with some of the communities up there. And she came back to us and said, it's really difficult to get up there, to get into that community from a transportation perspective. And so she was sharing the difficulties that she was seeing around medicine delivery and even getting people or other supplies up there for food security, that sort of thing. So she told us that as a problem, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I work in aviation. It should be something that we should be able to work towards. So I spent about 6 months working with a couple of other people to try and figure out if we could solve some of the problems. And ultimately, we decided there's a way to do this with a drone, a UAV from Bulgaria, actually, to be able to deliver food and medicine. So with that in my hands, I came to Kenya to meet with some of the organizations here to see if we could start this process.
Yes.
I had a chance to meet a number of other people while I was here in other communities and other businesses, and I've been back now. This is my second time since.
Wow.
So we've gone from drones for delivering food to a drone program that can fight fires in slums, where we've worked towards that solution, to also trying to find ways to get technology and innovation to become more popular in Kenya as well.
Wow, great. So it's something that is work in progress at the moment.
I hope it never stops. If it ever stopped, I wouldn't be able to come back. And I love this place too much.
That's for sure.
You know, the last time I came, which was about last year in March,
Yes.
I was on the radio with Capital FM, and we were talking through some things in the morning. And one of the things I said was that, to me, Nairobi hums with a feeling. There's a feeling of just this energy. I mean, it's a very young country. There's a lot of young people. And I feel like this country is entrepreneurial in spirit. There's just a drive to do something.
Yes.
And so I love coming to this place and feeling that energy. It's a beautiful thing. You can feel it here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And this thing called business entrepreneurship, how did you get into it?
Oh, that's a great question. So my family history is basically in entrepreneurship. So on one side of my family, we were farmers back to, I don't know, probably as soon as they learned how to dig a hole in the ground and plant a seed. On the other side of my family, they ran small businesses. So I've been sort of exposed to entrepreneurship and small business my whole life. When I graduated from university, I started to work in big companies, but I always felt a pull towards innovation, towards disruption in a good way, not in a bad way, disruption or transformation.
Yeah.
And so it always pulled me. So I've been bouncing between large companies and starting companies most of my career. And I'm most happy when I'm finding new opportunities that other people can start to come into and also start to be a part of.
What's the biggest company you worked for?
Oh, the biggest company I worked for? Ooh, that's a good question. I've worked for a couple that are over 1,000 people. Both of them were public companies. I worked for a company that was called Uptake in Chicago. It was a data analytics company. It was actually a startup, but a very big one, unicorn, doing data analytics for Caterpillar and a few others. And then I also worked for a company called AAR, which does aircraft maintenance.
Unicorn is a company valued at $1 billion USD. Great.
Yeah.
Yes, for somebody who does not understand that.
And it is as rare as a unicorn, as they say, yes. In
Yes.
fact, this company was the first in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in your process of starting this journey of entrepreneurship, what are some of the challenges that you faced in that journey?
Oh, I think finding a mentor who can keep you on the line is one thing I never really had in the beginning of my journey that I look back on now and wish I would have had. Because I think that having somebody who's been there before to be able to say, hold the course, you know, I tell people these days, starting a new business or starting a new project or something is like taking a canoe and trying to go out into the ocean. So, you know, as you go out, you have to fight all of those waves that are trying to push you back and push you back. But at a certain point, when you get far enough, suddenly the waves stop pushing you and you can just go. And you have to know that at a certain point, those waves will stop. So keep going, keep going. I didn't have that very much in the early part of my career.
Yes.
That was hard. But what I did find, actually, believe it or not, was that failing wasn't the end. Because if you really care, if you're really working at this, you have another option, you have another idea, and you'll only take the learnings from what just happened and be able to apply them to the next one.
Yeah. So this failing how is it important? I remember, I can't remember the exact words of Michael Jordan. I say the more he fails, the more it improved his chances of succeeding.
Yeah.
So how did it apply to you? I mean, what was the most conspicuous again?
Well, I think, when we talk about failing in the tech community in the US, there's this saying that you should fail fast. And I always try to speak into that to say, it's not about failing fast, it's about learning fast. But they're both fast. So as an entrepreneur, one of the key things to do is to not take too long to make decisions. Being an entrepreneur means accepting risk. And accepting risk means you make decisions before you feel comfortable. And so the speed in making those decisions means that you advance the ball.
Yeah.
And you have an opportunity to get a response. Okay? So we all operate from theory, so we have an idea, but we don't actually understand how it might work until we go somewhere. So that first step of going somewhere, even if you end and you don't go any further, you have a result. And that result will give you information that will help you to decide where to go in the future. So I've lost a lot of companies. I won't give you a number, but I've lost a lot of companies in my life.
Yes.
And I don't consider any of them actual failures. Although they failed as a business, I don't consider them failures because each one of them has led me down a path afterwards to a very successful one, right? So you do eventually get to hopefully see the other side of it.
At what point did you have now the big break now that now enable you now to glide?
Great question. So I'm going to give you a secret that I believe, and I don't know if this is universal, but I don't think an entrepreneur ever feels that. I've done a lot of thinking about it.
Yes.
I'm not sure, I've never felt that security. And I think that's why I both love being an entrepreneur, and oftentimes probably my wife doesn't like me as an entrepreneur because I don't want to feel settled. I want to feel a little unsettled. So I probably do it to myself in a way, but I believe that I lose my edge if I get comfortable, right? So if you're starting something new, you have to do it hard. If suddenly you move to easy, I'm actually worse at easy than I am at hard because I'm living in hard all the time, right?
Yes.
So I probably manufacture more hard than I should. That's a really bad answer for me to give.
Yeah.
But if you don't like doing hard, you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
That is for sure. That's for sure.
You have to have the passion, right? I mean, you know this. You don't do these things because they're all about the money. So there's a difference between startup and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a US thing, but it's a global thing as well. Okay, so when somebody tells me I'm a startup guy versus I'm an entrepreneur, the difference I see is that a startup guy is looking at valuation. Okay, so if I'm starting up a business, I'm looking for my investors, I'm looking to Series A, Series B, let's do rounds of investment, and I'm out of the business at a certain period of time. An entrepreneur says, I cannot believe they don't have a Peloton spin center in Nairobi. And even if there is a law against Peloton, I'm making this all up, by the way. Even if there's a law against Peloton, you should sponsor this, by the way. So even if Peloton, there's some law against Peloton in Nairobi, I will work for 5 years to overcome that law just because I want Peloton. So the pain of going through that has a reward for me, a dopamine hit of the passion I have for what I'm doing, right? If you don't have that passion, it's not entrepreneurship, it's a startup.
Yeah.